You're in your first year as a new leader and you're thinking, why is this so much harder than I expected? You are not alone. Almost every new leader I've worked with has thought the same thing. I thought I was ready for this, but why does it feel so heavy? After working with a lot of first year leaders, here's what I found. This first year, it is not random. There are patterns that show up for new leaders as they navigate that first. And we're going to talk about what these patterns are so you can stop blaming yourself. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 4 phases that most new leaders go through in their first year. And I'll share a few tips about what to do in each phase. Before I get into it, I'm Dr. Jessica Diop, and I study leadership onboarding and support new leaders in their first year. So let's get into it. When someone gets promoted, they often get taught the new skills that they'll need for the role. You might be told how to run meetings, how to give feedback, how to manage performance. You'll get some policies and procedures, maybe an onboarding checklist, where they'll talk you through the real logistics of the job. No one, or rarely anyone, really talks about what happens internally, because this isn't just a new job as a new leader. It's a whole new identity. And when you have an identity shift, even if it's an exciting, like moving into a new role, it can feel uncomfortable. Let's break down those phases. First phase is prove yourself. This phase usually shows up in the first few months. And just to know, I'm going to give some recommended times that these phases usually show up. Those are just that, recommendations. It could take you longer, could take you shorter. Maybe you go through them in a little bit of a different order. These are predictable patterns that I see often in new leaders. Let's get back to the first phase, prove yourself. You're excited, celebrated this new role. Underneath, you might have some self-doubt, could be thinking, I need to show them that they made the right decision about putting me into this role. So you might be doing things like saying yes to everything, staying late or coming in early, over preparing for meeting, or spending lots of time rereading emails before you're sending. Could be taking everything on for your team instead of delegating. If you find yourself doing some of these things, you're still acting like that high performer individual contributor. Here's the shift that needs to happen. Leadership is not about proving yourself anymore. It's about how you're moving through and making strategic decisions. So if you're in this first phase and you find yourself doing a few of those things, here's some ideas about what to do. Before you go into any meeting, you should first ask yourself, what decisions do I need to make here? Not how do I impress people in this room? Just thinking about what needs to be clearly understood and communicated coming out of this meeting. Second, try delegating something a little earlier than might feel comfortable. It could feel awkward, but I'm going to recommend that you try it anyways. This is how you're going to grow into the role and learn about your new team. So we moved through phase 1 of proving yourself. Now we're going to go into the second phase. Phase 2, protect yourself. In this phase, you've been there a little bit. Maybe you're 3 to 6 months into your new leadership role. Things change after you've been there for a while. You start to notice the office politics a little bit. Notice how your words carry more weight now that you're a leader. And you start to become careful. Maybe you're hesitating before you're giving feedback. Maybe you're really overthinking things before you say it. Now you're not trying to prove yourself, you're just trying not to mess up. So if you find yourself in this phase and some of those things feel familiar, here's a few ideas. Try saying the hard thing earlier. If you need to give feedback to someone on your team or someone that you work with, feedback needs to happen as soon as possible. Do not save it for 3 weeks. Clear communication and understanding now is going to save some stress for you down the road. And if you're uncomfortable, feeling a little strange about giving your first few rounds of feedback, just remember, feedback is not personal. We are talking about performance or correcting a behavior, not a personal attack. And sometimes a small shift in thinking can make that conversation a little easier. Just trust me, don't put it off. It'll help you build credibility and trust a lot faster. Next phase is phase 3. So we've gone from phase 1 of proving ourselves, phase 2 of protecting ourselves, and now we're moving to phase 3. Phase 3, this is constant pressure. And this is typically in that 6 to 9 month range of your first year. This is where things start to feel a little heavy. It can feel like you're on all the time. Interestingly enough, maybe you're laying in bed, replaying conversations from work over and over again in your head, taking your team's stress home with you, starting to feel responsible for everything, not in a good way. And you're tired. I mean, not just tired, exhausted. This does not mean you're bad at leadership or you weren't ready for your new role. It means your responsibility has increased and it has happened fast. Interesting thing about this phase also is this typically happens when traditional onboarding or new hire support kind of drops off. Been there 6 months. Surely you're fine. They think you've got all the ropes figured out. But sometimes this is when the challenges really start to show up. What are some things you can do in this phase to support yourself? Create a small shutdown routine at the end of your workday, maybe 5 minutes. always block it on your calendar. Use this routine to go through emails or take any notes to get ready for the next day. Don't let yourself go straight from work mode to home mode. Transition is great if you're not commuting and you're working from home. Have a little routine that signals it's the end of your workday. Make sure you're asking yourself, is this mine to carry? This question can be really helpful when you're trying to decide if it's something you need to take on, or something you need to share, or something that you can talk through. So remember, not every problem belongs on your shoulders. You can guide your team, but you should not be absorbing all their emotional stress. This brings us to the last phase in phase 4. In this phase, we're rebuilding. This typically shows up in the 9th month or so through your 12 months or maybe even 18 months. Like I said, these are all relative. In this phase, you can either stay stuck and keep working that high-performing individual contributor, being busy and carrying all the things, or you can fully step into leadership. In this phase, you stop measuring yourself by how much you do. Start measuring yourself by how clear things are. This is a phase where that leadership identity really starts to click. You start to create some systems, have some understanding, have some learning of the organization under your belt, starting to feel a little more confident. I also want to point out in this phase, you've made some mistakes. There's nothing wrong with that. We learn from those mistakes. This is how you kind of figure things out sometimes in your first year. So those mistakes too have helped you make some decisions or know something. So keep in mind that all those little mistakes are just helping you learn and grow as you develop this leadership identity in your first year. There's some shifts that happen in this phase. And so here's some things for you to do if you find yourself in this phase. Start tracking something new. So instead of how many things did I get done today, ask some metrics around, did my team get clearer on anything this week? We make things simpler. We help any processes or see anything through. You start focusing on the outcomes of your team and not all of the items that you did or did not check that to-do list. This is where your leadership really starts to bloom and grow. So now that we've talked through those 4 phases, I want to remind you that if this first year of leadership feels hard, it's okay. It does not mean that you're failing, it just means that you're adjusting. Problem is not that you're bad at leadership, you weren't ready for your role. Problem is no one really talked you through how much of a psychological identity shift moving into a leadership role could be. Once you listen to what these phases are and start to see yourself in some of these examples that I shared, you can stop panicking. And you could start adapting and moving ahead in building your leadership identity. If you're in your first year of leadership, you're really wanting some clear understanding of what's stressing you out. I recommend that you take my first year leader year 1 quiz. It'll help you identify what phase you're in likely, and also show you what are some areas that are really stretching you. Link is in the description. Just remember, the first year is not about being perfect, it's about growing into the role. Growth, it does not feel smooth, but it does get clear. Once you start to see some of these patterns, you can stop second guessing yourself and lead with purpose. In my next videos, I'm going to go deeper into each of these phases because the real shift happens when you understand how to navigate them. If this helped, be sure to subscribe. We're building leaders who don't just survive their first year, but grow through it.